Hey, this is Jamey from Stonemaier Games, and today I'm going to talk about my favorite mechanism in Uwe Rosenberg's Atiwa, a game set in Ghana, and it's all about fruit bats and how they help grow the forest and kind of educating people to respect the value that fruit bats can add to the area. Really, really neat game. I played it with 4 players just the other day. Lasted, I believe, around 2 hours for that gameplay, and we all had a lot of fun. There are a few mechanisms that I wanted to highlight today, and I think my favorite, I'll just jump to my favorite. It's a very simple mechanism, but I think it's really cool. It's an action benefit pairing mechanism. In this mechanism, I'm showing you the rules here because it's a little bit difficult to hold up this to the camera because there's a set board on the table, but there's also a bunch of tiles out here for I believe it's either 6 or 7 rounds. And each of these tiles is paired with a benefit printed on the board. So this gives the designer agency over exactly which benefits are always available on the board, but when you place a worker on one of these tiles, not only do you get the action on the board, but you also gain the benefit on the tile itself. And every round, these tiles shift over. They shift over one slot. And so every round, the pairing, the benefit pairing is changing based on the position of those tiles. I think that's a really, really clever thing to have in a worker placement game. Kind of a shifting, paired action balance that's a little bit different from every game, from one game to the next. Yeah, really cool mechanism there. That is probably my favorite mechanism in the game. But there are 2 other things I wanted to mention real quick about the game that I also really enjoyed. One kind of surprised me, but visually, I really, really like the look of these cards. So these are cards that you're gaining throughout the game to expand your capacity. For the most part, it's really, these cards represent your capacity of what you can hold in your farm. So this one has a wild animal here, it has a goat here, and that I don't actually have that yet. I have to gain a goat token, and when I do, I can place it on this slot on this card. There are also places for bats here, there are places for trees. Each of these cards is slightly unique. But I think that, I mean, the main takeaway for me for these cards that I really, really like is the 3x3 grid. It's a really satisfying card size, card aesthetic, and there's something about this 3x3 grid that I'd love to see in other games. I kind of want to play around with it with myself, and not necessarily for capacity reasons, but maybe with a completely different mechanism. But there's just something really, really satisfying. It's almost a tic-tac-toe grid, even though there is no tic-tac-toe minigame in this game. But yeah, there's something really satisfying about the 3x3 grid built within the same card that I really, really like. So there's that. The last mechanism is a little bit more complex, a lot less subjective there, and this is about your player mat here. So your player mat starts out filled with stuff. It's filled with wild animals, filled with trees, filled with fruit, filled with families, and filled with goats down here. And every round, at the end of the round, you are going to look at the exposed benefits. Like right here, this says gain a tree, from top to bottom and gain those benefits. And this feels really, really good. It takes a little bit of calculating as you're playing if you want to get really precise about it. But even if you aren't, it feels really good to go down this checklist at the end of each round because as you're gaining this income, you're making your income better. So focus on that for a second. As you're gaining your income, you're making your income better because you go from top to bottom. So for example, say I have a couple wild animals out and I've revealed 1 tree. I start up here. So I activate this row first. I see that I have 1 tree. I gain a tree. That means I'm pulling a tree off this row. Even say I already had 2 trees pulled off, that wild animal, that income benefit, might pull off this tree. And so when I do that, instead of just gaining 1 fruit, I'm gaining 2 fruit. And by gaining this fruit, I'm pulling those off my player mat instead. So I'm pulling them off this row of the player mat, putting them on my board if I can hold them, and then gaining the benefits from this row. And so from this row, I'm gaining bats. So say that managed to push me all the way over here to get a second bat. So I'm pulling 2 bats off here. The bats actually aren't part of the income mat, so they don't contribute to this escalating income benefit. It really kind of stops there. The families look at the food, and there are other ways to pay for food as well. But the pairing of these 3 sections, these 3 rows of the player mat, where as you're doing them one by one, they are potentially making your income better for the next income benefit row, feels really good. Feels really, really good. And so I really like that element. It's kind of income on top of income in a game, and I really, really like that. Yeah, those are my favorite mechanisms in Etiwa, I look forward to playing again, especially with these amazing 3x3 grids and forming my own little village. Yeah, and I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below if you've had the chance to play it as well. Thanks.